Stop whatever you're doing right now. Because what you're about to hear in the next few minutes has quietly transformed the relationships of thousands of men who believed they had already figured it out. Here's the uncomfortable truth. They hadn't, and for a long time, neither had the person sharing this with you. It took 20 years of sitting across from real couples in genuine pain to uncover something that almost nobody talks about. Not your closest friends, not anything you've read online, not the conversations that happen in private among men. There are specific places on a woman's body that go far beyond physical sensation. These places speak directly to her nervous system, her emotional core, her entire inner world. They tell her, without a single word, that she is safe, that she is truly seen, and that she is deeply, intentionally wanted. And the vast majority of men, caring men, intelligent men, men who love their partners with everything they have, are walking right past these places every single day. Not from a lack of love, from a lack of a map. This comes from more than 2 decades of clinical work as a relationship psychologist, working alongside couples in their 30s, their 50s, their 70s, couples standing at the edge of divorce, couples who had let silence grow between them for years, couples who still loved each other deeply but had somehow stopped feeling it. And the same pattern appeared again and again. The man believed he was doing enough. The woman didn't feel unloved. She felt invisible. And those two things are not the same. Today, that gap gets bridged, not with motivation or theory, but with real neuroscience-backed truth about how a woman's body and mind respond to intentional touch. 7 zones, 7 emotional doorways. By the time you finish hearing this, you will understand your partner at a level most men never reach. The first zone is going to catch you off guard. It's her hands, not her waist, not her lips, 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 not her hands. Most men treat the act of holding hands like a reflex, something automatic you do walking into a room or navigating a crowd. But what the research actually tells us is something far more significant. Slow, deliberate hand contact triggers the release of oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding, for trust, for the felt sense of complete safety with another person. When you hold her hand like it means something, not squeezing, not gripping, just a slow and warm and fully present hold, you are literally altering her brain chemistry in real time. Women who've been asked about this unprompted have said that the first time a man held their hand with that kind of intention, they felt more emotionally close to him than they had in years. And one small thing that collapses that moment entirely: neglected hands. Rough, cold, inattentive hands interrupt the experience immediately. The details, as always, carry more weight than most men realize. The second zone sits at the nape of the neck, right along the hairline. This is where a woman stores the weight of her day. The pressure she carries, the mental load that piles up invisibly, the stress from every direction that often goes completely unnoticed by the people around her. When you touch this area with gentleness and genuine slowness and absolutely no ulterior motive, something shifts in her body that is difficult to describe and impossible to fake. She exhales, not just physically. Her entire nervous system moves from a state of guarded survival into something open and connected. There was a man, late in his 50s, who had grown to feel like a stranger inside his own marriage. One evening, with no occasion and no plan, he simply placed his hand at the back of his wife's neck while she stood quietly at the window. She went completely still. She drew in a long, slow breath. And when she turned to look at him, her eyes were full of tears. He said nothing. He didn't need to. That single touch communicated everything words had failed to say for years. The third zone is the lower back, that soft space between the waist and the hips. This gesture carries a meaning that language rarely captures cleanly. It communicates presence without possession. It says, I am right here beside you, I have you, and you are completely free. There is no holding on in it. There is only showing up. And showing up, done consistently, is the most underestimated thing a man can bring to a relationship. Use this touch in the unremarkable moments, a Tuesday morning in the kitchen, walking quietly side by side, standing together in comfortable silence. The power is never in the grand moment. It lives in the steady warmth of the small ones, because to her, those are the moments that end up meaning the most. The fourth zone is just behind the ear, beneath the line of the jaw. This one is different from the others because it asks for something first. It asks for trust to already exist between you. Women describe this touch not as feeling desired, but as feeling treasured. And for a woman who has lived through disappointment, who has learned through experience to guard herself carefully, feeling treasured is not a nice addition to intimacy. It comes before everything else. Move toward this zone too quickly, with too much urgency or eagerness, and it closes. Approach it with lightness and warmth and genuine patience, and it opens in a way that no other touch can replicate. The fifth zone is the space between the shoulder blades. This one is profoundly overlooked. It is the one part of her own body that she can never see herself. When you place your hand there with deliberate care, you are offering protection over the part of her that is most exposed, the part she has no ability to watch over on her own. Her nervous system registers this without her having to think about it. Her mind settles, and the fact that this touch is not sexual is not a limitation. It is precisely the source of its emotional power. It says clearly and without ambiguity, I am not here for what I can take. I am here for you. The sixth zone is the inner thigh near the knee. Let's be honest about what this zone is and is not. It is not about moving quickly toward anything. It is about the approach itself. It is about communicating closeness, real, genuine closeness, while making it absolutely clear that her pace is the only pace that matters. This is a transitional space. It suggests rather than demands. It opens a conversation without applying any pressure. The men who understand this, who stay here with patience and full awareness, are the men their partners trust with everything. The men who rush past it are often the ones left wondering why emotional distance keeps returning, no matter how much time they spend together. The seventh zone is the lower abdomen, just below the navel. Save this one. It belongs last because it requires every single thing that came before it. This is the place in the female body where instinct and deep emotion meet. You do not come here casually. When you rest your hand here with slowness and warmth, as though you are holding something genuinely fragile and irreplaceable, and she allows it, she is not simply permitting physical closeness. She is handing you access to her interior world. The trust that gesture represents is not small. It deserves to be honored exactly for what it is. So why do these 7 zones reach somewhere that everything else misses? Because women do not experience touch the way men do. Female skin receptors are measurably more sensitive and far more emotionally integrated. Studies in effective neuroscience confirm that these specific areas produce significantly higher rates of oxytocin release. But beyond the science, what 20 years of sitting with real couples has made undeniably clear is this. Women do not simply respond to stimulation. They respond to intention. They respond to presence. They respond to the experience of being with a man who is actually there, not performing affection, not going through the motions, but genuinely, consciously, fully present. One man put it simply, and it has stayed with the memory ever since. He said he couldn't identify exactly what he had changed. He only knew that he had started paying attention differently, and without him doing anything dramatic, she had drawn closer. That's the entire thing, distilled down to its truth. You are not being asked to perform. You are being asked to show up. These 7 zones are not switches to flip for a reaction. They are doors. Each time you touch them with honesty and care and slowness and no agenda beyond genuine connection, you are saying something that words almost never manage to say with enough clarity. I see you. I am here. You matter to me. And it is never too late to begin. A single conscious touch in one perfectly ordinary moment has the power to reopen a chapter in a relationship that both of you had quietly given up on. Start this evening, start tomorrow morning, start right now. If this has genuinely shifted something in the way you think about connection, pass it on to someone who needs to hear it. And if any of this landed for you, share which zone surprised you most. Those are the conversations worth having.